schools actually.
Uh-oh. Did they spend any money on broadband, Brandon?
Not where BJ lives.
That's definitely a problem. We need to look into
The
broadband
public school
expansion.
system has almost as big a budget.
Uh-oh.
There you are.
There we are. You're back.
Oh my God.
I said, did they put any money in for broadband?
The, welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. We are your concerned citizens, empowering the people, igniting change. We're going to go around the horn, introducing ourselves. Mr. Russell, can you start us off, please?
Of course, I am Brandon Russell. I follow local politics, ran for county commissioner last year, and regularly update members of the public about what is going on in local and state government on my Facebook page, which is at Brandon for St. Mary's.
Nice. How do I stand up to that? Good grief. Like,
You can't. You
Mr.
don't.
I know. I can't. It's Mr. Information. My name's Chris Hill, and I'm a realtor here in St. Mary's County and a concerned citizen every day of my life. And that's me.
I see that you put a lot more letters after your name now. So it's like you. Can you tell us what those are? What is that?
Yeah, they're realtor designations. I just recently accomplished some of them, and I'll share them with you. One of them is the Certificate to Excellence C2EX, which is a certification that the National Association of Realtors gives to you have to train for it. And then the second one I'm very proud of is my AHWD, which is At Home with Diversity certification.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's really a pretty big one for me. And then the last one is seller representative. I'm certified for sellers, not like I don't help buyers and sellers. So yeah, so I saw BJ had all these real fancy letters after his name. I was feeling a little left out, so I had to find something to put up there.
Man, let me explain to you as much as I paid for those letters, bro.
You deserve it for sure.
And I am BJ Hall. I also ran for county commissioner. Probably one of the funnest things I've ever done here in St. Mary's County. If I knocked on your door, thank you for opening. And if I knocked on your door and you didn't open, I'll be back, man.
Oh, wait. Did you just throw a nugget? I don't know.
Yeah, I think he just made some news. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and now he freezes up. That's too funny.
Oh, man. All right. So we're still getting to know each other. What is your most prized possession? We'll start with you, Mr. Russell.
Gosh, that is a good question.
No naming kids, no kids, no spouse. We're talking about material possessions here.
Material possessions. You know what? I think my most prized possession is some things that I have from my dad. Like I have some of his old cowboy hats and like just little stuff like a money clip. Little items like personal items like that. My dad passed away when I was 18. And so I kept, some little things like that to remember him by. So other than, the important stuff like the paperwork, that's the stuff I would grab when I'm running out of the house when it's on fire.
Pretty cool.
Roger that. One of these days you gotta wear one of those hats.
I'll just
Yep.
Might have to back the camera up some so I can fit it in
there. That's awesome. Okay.
Chris?
So I was thinking about it. I was trying to think of anything, but I actually have it's a little corny, I'm sorry, a metal sandbox shovel that my grandfather gave me when I was a little kid. And it's a long story, but I broke it one year. We were, I was an Army brat, so I wasn't here. And when I broke it, my grandfather had my uncle solder the back of it, weld the back of the metal shovel back together. And so it's got this big solder joint on the back. But about that same time, one last thing is my grandmother and my grandparents were married 50 years, and she had a really fancy dress, and they took the fabric of the dress and they cut them into little strips and sewn them up together. The family did, and gave us each one of those too. So the two things are from my grandparents, both from St. Mary's County. Just saying.
Hey. um, I've made a post about this, and it's really special to me. And this is my West Point class ring.
Nice.
It's very gaudy. Um, and one of the reasons why it is so gaudy is my mom wanted to get something really fancy. So we actually she has the parent version of the same of the ring. And so hers has more diamonds. There's a 4 diamond center with with 12 diamonds around it and 2 diamond dividers, and it's all fancy. I'm like, man,
Wow.
the guy who robbed me in Jersey for my first one should have stole hers. I was like, hers is worth more. And the other thing I had to show, I got a championship belt autograph
Look
by
at
your
that.
boy
Oh, Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan, baby.
Does Hogan know best? Oh man, it fell flat. He froze.
That's too funny.
Oh, this is gonna be another rough one.
It's gonna. Speaking of which, let me. You warned me, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna jump on a tangent real quick before we get started. And I said it earlier. Sometimes none of us here really intend to ever offend anyone, right? But sometimes when things are said in a certain way, they may have been taken a certain way, and I'll apologize in advance for my ignorance on some topics, but I've just promised that there's no ill intent out of any of us here. We just want to be concerned citizens and help the public. So I just thought I'd put that out there, just as our disclaimer. We can't really write it out, but
We could type it across and put it at the bottom.
yeah, we don't want to offend anybody, but
No.
inevitably I will. I know I will. I'm sorry in advance. So
Well, I think you know what? I think it's a part of the learning process too. So
Yeah.
it's like if you don't ask some of those questions or you don't have some of these difficult conversations, then we're just having the same conversations that everybody else is having.
yeah,
And so I
Right.
think in order for I think all of us come from different silos, different groups within the county, and I think that it's cool that we actually get to cross pollinate a little bit.
yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
and I'm very pleased that we're doing this. I'm learning every time we talk, so it's good stuff.
All right. So now back to the meat.
Yep, let's do
Hold up. I wasn't supposed to laugh there. I was like, I wasn't laughing at what you just said. The disclaimer was
it.
very serious.
Well, I'm sorry. I always diffuse with humor, so there's that. So,
And I laugh and smile when I'm nervous. So it's one of
Yeah.
those things.
I get it.
All right. Once again, crossover happened last week. I guess by the time we actually release this, it'll be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That emergency bill there was an emergency bill that was referenced in an article that was supposed to be addressing some of the issues that we have at the veterans home up in Charlotte Hall. I didn't see it. So at some point we probably need to just clip that. It was like, you said there was going to be an emergency bill to address some of the issues. What's going to happen? So they only have a couple weeks to go. So the bills are the same: 1697 in the House, 1363 on the Senate side, and the in district stuff died. No reason to really talk beyond that. It came up again and it died again. So if anyone wants to address that issue, it's going to have to come back or be addressed in a different manner. The public funding. One good thing about that the public funding is it cleared the Senate side, and they are having a hearing on the public funding bills that came from the Senate on March the 29th. So hopefully we can find videos of that and see how that goes. Hopefully it clears the House
Yeah.
side as well, because we need that money.
Yeah, that's going to be I mean, this is the first time in recent history that I remember these taking so long to move along, right? I mean, they're normally, I always thought they were normally like, what's it called? Just go, you know?
Local courtesy.
Local
Yeah.
courtesy, right.
We're not seeing it. We're not seeing it. I mean, they're definitely scrutinizing it.
Well, I think because of the controversial nature of the two bills, and yeah, being that we had two sets of bills presented in the House, it became a political bill, a political issue, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. It's like I apologize that y'all had to play politics with our roads and
Right.
parks. It's like just get the money down here. We got stuff
Right.
to do.
We need it for the kids, y'all.
For the kids.
It's for the kids.
For the kids.
Was it the unicorn baby puppy rainbows?
Uh-huh.
All right. So instead of us focusing on Annapolis, we're going to focus right here on things that are happening in St. Mary's County. I know most people don't like talking about budgets, but I think it's important that we pay attention to what's happening in the middle of our budget cycle, because sometimes people assume that they know what's in the budget, or they assume they know why something didn't get approved or didn't get was not completed or wasn't funded. But very few people actually walk through that document and see the different iterations of each of the budgets as they're going through the approval process.
Right.
So
there's a lot to this. There's a lot going on. I mean, I first, let me say, I don't envy them to go through all this process. I really don't. Number one, but
that's all.
But they, you know what? That's what they decided to take on, being in office. So
they beat two of us just
Right.
to do that.
Just to do exactly. We thought we wanted it, but then we didn't get it.
All right. Just a high level summary of the budget. Brandon, you want to walk us through it?
Sure. So before we go through the page on the screen there, I'm just going to give some background on the overall budget process. It unfolds over several months and many meetings. The commissioners go section by section through the budget and have the different county departments or state agencies or whoever it is that we're giving funding to, the Board of Education, Sheriff's Office, all of these people come before them with a budget request. And then they work through that budget request and they decide how much they're actually going to allocate to each department or organization. And they go through that, like I said, through several meetings, and they end up with what you see on your screen, which is the approved recommended budget that will go to public forum, I believe in April. And so this snapshot, it's pretty good about just so you can see exactly where money is going in the budget. So when you look at this document, you see in the left-hand column are all of the places they're allocating money to, or where they have money stored at, for lack of a better term, or they can pull money from. And then on the right side of the budget, you'll see a couple of columns. FTEs are new positions being added. Fund balance is the amount of fund balance that the commissioners have to allocate as they see fit. There is some caveats there. They tend to use it for non-recurring items versus recurring items. So that would be like a one-off vehicle purchase that you do one time versus adding a position and paying for that. That would be considered a recurring item. Next, you have general revenue, which is how much money the county is taking in from different fees and taxes and other sources. And then you have general expense, which is what the county is paying out to operate and complete CIP budgets, give money to the Board of Education, Sheriff's Office, etc. A couple of things I want to call out, especially on this page. is right about in the middle. You see a bolded line that says revenue excess / shortfall, and a little bit over from that, you see 4.766 million. That is the excess revenue that the county has over what they thought they were going to have. And so they get to fold that into the budget and make use of it.
So that's property taxes that assessments were higher and they collected about that much more. Being real, it's true. It's really a big part.
Yeah, it's property taxes, it's income tax that the county gets from people who work here, and yeah, so all of those funding sources. That's exactly right. It goes into that that revenue excess, which of course is better to have an excess versus a shortfall. The other number I want to point out, if you can scroll up just a little bit, yeah, so we can see the bottom. You will see that as you go through all of these categories down toward the bottom, that revenue excess of 4.7 million drops down to 1.99 million. So they've made use of a good portion of that. And you see where they allocated it to. So they gave it to compensation, which is payroll. They gave some to county attorney, human resources, EMS, rec and park. Above that, further up the page, you saw Board of Education, where they allocated money, the court system, Office of the Sheriff, State's Attorney's Office, Treasurer's Office. And then if we go on to the second page, there is a few more things listed there where money was allocated to, and you will see towards the bottom, there is a line that says total allocated 321.23, and just over from that is the amount 881,632. And that amount is what is left over after they have allocated money throughout the budget. That's the extra money they have to make use of, and they bring that amount forward to public hearing so that the public can weigh in on not only the entire budget, but how the county should make use of that excess revenue that is still waiting to be spent. And so that's your kind of high level overview.
How many other people's eyes glazed over? I know mine were.
That's not even deep in the budget.
I know. It's you know, you can get so deep into this stuff, and like one year I think I took the budget, went line item and just looked at it, and I mean, it's not my job to do that, obviously, but I mean, it's really nice to understand where the money goes, really, even if you just do it one time and look at where everything's being spent. And there's a lot of your money being spent on a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's real fun when you start looking at it by line item and watching the growth or the reduction by line item, and so you see specifically.
Just for the sake of anybody listening that might want to do that, where do they find this budget?
Well, you can go. Well, this budget specifically came from board docs, and we need to leave. We'll make sure that we leave a link for board docs. Matter of fact, you know what? We'll just leave a link for this doc specifically. So we won't send you on a goose chase. We'll just say this is the link.
That's fair.
And that way they can go directly to the 61-page document, so they can get an understanding of where we're at right now.
I mean, I think people would like to see that. You know what I mean? I think some people, not everybody wants to see it, but some people don't want to see it.
And that document is pretty, it's not as detailed as some of the full budget work session packages, because that has, background information and historical information on what was spent where in the past and all of that. But what this budget book that we're looking at does is it gives you the at-a-glance view, which is what we saw, but then it also has several pages talking about, this is where general revenue funds can be spent. This is where fund balance can be spent. This is where we get the money from. Here are our thresholds, our percentages, all of their rules that they have to abide by. So if you have some time that you want to kill reading a 61-page budget book, it is there for you.
The problem with this one is you cannot read it at 2 times the speed. So.
That's right.
You're right. You can, but you're not going to get any of it. You're not going to. You want to get a headache. That's how you do it.
Yes.
two of the areas that the departments that actually got a lot of conversation over the past or during the first quarter it was education and the state's attorney. Um, looking at, I always thought it was interesting that that schools actually
Uh-oh. Did they spend any money on broadband, Brandon?
Not where BJ lives.
That's definitely a problem. We need to look into
the
broadband
public school
expand.
system has almost as big a budget.
Uh-oh.
Ah, there you are.
There we are.
Back.
You're back.
Oh my God.
I said, did they put any money in for broadband?
I told you I can still hear y'all. It's just one of those things where I'm just stuck in this limbo.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I was saying was the school budget. School budget is almost the same size as the county's budget, and we don't contribute the entire amount of their $278 million request. They're only requesting $130 million of that 300. What was it, 313 that we had in there?
Mm-hmm.
So
Is that like 28 schools? 28 schools and $130 million.
now, what I'm not gonna do is let you sit here and talk about my homeboy, Dr. Smith, like that.
I'm being reserved here. That's a first, by the way. I want to put that on our master calendar. That's what we should do. We need to create a book of important items. Today's item is Chris kept his mouth shut on his, on this.
Oh man.
I mean, look, here's a concern I have. Like, the economy's in a rough shape right now, and I see it from the real estate side right now. And actually, that's a big part of what I said earlier. When if real estate's suffering, values have the potential to change over the next few years, and that could definitely affect. So once the budget goes up, it don't come back down, right? It doesn't come back down, and you have to be smart. I feel like some of the surrounding counties. I always joke about some surrounding counties, hitting the lottery in the last 10 years, and maybe we're adjoined by a bridge, but they got hitting the lottery, and then they up their budget so significantly, and when that money stops pouring in, what do you do, right? Like you've got all the services, you've got all these facilities and all this stuff. It's really a tough balance for commissioners and everybody else, because everybody wants the money. Right? Let's be it. Library wants the money, school system wants the money, sheriff's department wants the money. They all want our money. And unfortunately, I don't know. I'm really concerned about when the economy takes things like this and we get stuck in bad spots. Unfortunately, I think you need to start making cuts. Nobody wants to hear that. Right, but I'm not a county commissioner.
I think you point out you make a good point, but the problem that you have is when you start talking about the responsibilities of a county commissioner and the need for essential services, you have to go through all of these things and say, all right, what do you take away? Right. It's like we can look at our schools and say, all right, we don't want to spend $270 million on schools, but all right, what are you not going to do?
Yeah, what are you going to cut? I totally get that, and there's no real, it's kind of like, this is like I used to be in the construction business, right? And what they would do is they would transfer us as like from one job site to another, and you take over somebody's job site, right? And the first thing you did when you came over to somebody's job site is you threw everything in the trash can, right? And you started over from scratch because you're like, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. It wasn't like, and then we're going to do these things, right? I'm very concerned about this budget. I think we're set. I'm unfortunately, there's only so much money, and they still want more. And I mean, they meaning everybody.
But what are you concerned about? I mean, like, are you speaking specifically to the school system?
Here's the problem: is like you can provide services, but when you're taking away more and more tax dollars to do that, you're going to need more services. The more tax dollars you take from the person, they're going to need more things, right? Like eventually, I'm not saying today
Right.
or tomorrow, but eventually it's like, it's that old story about the wheelbarrow, right? Like where so many people, get in the wheelbarrow and there's only, so many people that can push the wheelbarrow, and then they get tired and they're like, I'm going to get in the wheelbarrow, right? And then sooner or later, there's so few people pushing the wheelbarrow, it's not moving anywhere. And
Right.
we, I think we have to be really cautious about what we're doing. And I don't know. I worry, like I worry about the logic of it. We talked about that like one of the first episodes, right? And I'm not to single out the school system, because I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to use them as an example in this case, because there was 200 new pupils, but they took a loss of pupils over the last few years over COVID, right? So the budget's going up almost 7 to 10% really for 200 new pupils. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars.
All right, so one thing that I will take up for the school.
That's okay.
And this is now I understand that they have done some interesting things, and they do some interesting framing around their budgets. So they create these narratives that may not be reality. But I mean, they do a good job of saying, hey, these are the ways that we can meet the proposed budget. And it's like, if we cut these programs, we can meet these budgets. But
save the baby puppies, right? I mean, it's the same
right.
concept.
But the problem that they have is that there's a requirement from the state based off of the study done by the current study, right? And so now you have all these things, that these programs that they have to initiate and they have to be prepared for. And just because they had a reduction in students doesn't mean that they needed to reduce the amount of staff and teachers that they had to meet that reduction. And so, we have 200, but we're forecasted to have an increase in the near future, given all the new residential real estate that's being constructed all over the county. So,
oh no, we're not issuing many more permits right now, BJ. Just so you know,
we're not issuing them. But I mean, it's one of those things where we have ones that are already issued, that are just waiting for the right opportunity to construct. So like when the market gets better, you're gonna realize, well, all those permits that hadn't been where the construction hadn't started yet. You got a apartment complex with that's about to be built right here in the park. We got we started talking about Littertown. I mean, come on, man.
Well, no. I mean, I watch those too, but I mean, the other thing we want to, look. By the way, before I forget about this, why don't we get the superintendent on? Let's have let's do an episode, and I'm sure he's your buddy. He'd come on and chat with us, right?
He loves.
He will make our heads spin.
I'm okay with that, and we can look. I'm not, and I was never educated in St. Mary's County Public Schools, so he has a distinct advantage over me. And
what we can't do, he's really good at taking your talking points, creating this wonderful presentation, and he can wow you with all of the data. It was like, man, did he answer all my questions? I'm not sure, but that data show looked nice.
Right, it looks good. I don't know. I just think I guess maybe I always think of things in the basics of, like, a household budget, right? And I know you can't look at government the same way, right? When you have, but I think with the economy in jeopardy, I hate to use that word because it's just stereotypes, but there's concerns that, like, we're not going to have the tax revenue we've had over the years, and are we going to be budgeting significantly more things, and at some point the money's not there and it doesn't work, and that's how cities go bankrupt and counties go bankrupt and states have almost declared bankruptcy.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, this budget has a lot in it. And I think, it's so difficult to talk about the budget without going down 15 other rabbit holes.
Right.
Because, just sitting here, I'm like, okay, well, we could talk about this, talk about that. I think when we're looking at increases in parts of the budget or how money is allocated to places like the Board of Ed or the sheriff's office or whatever. One of the um, one of the really, I think, valid metrics that the commissioners consider is historically what percentage of the overall budget has that so-called department been, and does it match, or is it close to what is being done currently? Because, you know, uh, we talked about this earlier. Property taxes continue to go up. The commissioners have the choice to adopt what is called the constant yield, which will um, bring in the same amount of property tax revenue that we got last year, um, or they can let the property taxes go up based on the assessment of the value of your home, and that's usually what happens. And so we get more revenue out of that. And the same thing with income tax is true too. As people's wages go up, more taxes are coming in for revenue from income taxes. And so there's a lot of really, unique different pieces at play here. One of the I guess hotter issues of this budget was the state's attorney's portion.
Right.
And the background on that is Jamie Sterling asked for an increase to her budget. She wanted to add a number like maybe 10 or 12, I think, new positions. Wanted to get some. You froze, BJ. You're back.
I was just saying 11. That's
11. 11. Okay. I saw one finger go up and I was like, yeah. So she wanted to add 11 positions, get some money for purchasing new computer software, and basically do some upgrades. And there were documents in earlier budget work sessions that listed out exactly what all of these, financial asks were, and why she needed them. And the commissioners did approve some things early on, back in January, but then when she came back with her main ask, they kind of tabled the discussion. And when I'm looking at the budget that was approved today to go for public hearing, it looks to me as if she did get, she did get an increase overall of 17% for her budget, $910,000, almost 911. My question about that is, what exactly does that increase cover? Because that decision was never played out in a public meeting. It was just kind of tabled to be decided later, and then wasn't decided in a public meeting. And so I'm kind of curious as to what they did approve and what they didn't approve of her overall ask.
Did you see the meeting last week when she came in with federal funds? And
I did see that.
So I think that impacted the ask, and so I think that's probably why it probably impacts how much she was increased, because she's bringing money instead of just asking for the entire budget.
And I think that's smart. But
yeah.
By the way, I had an epiphany. What we need to do is, as concerned citizens, we need to be at that public hearing, and maybe we need to do an episode there. we should show up there and hear what people have to say, because it's so funny when you go to those public hearings and you hear everyone has their personal agenda, right? They all have their personal agenda, whatever that is, to try and get more money. But I get back to, like, you can't get it all. You don't get everything.
Yeah.
Right.
The one thing I know, we kind of talked about the school system, and one thing I mentioned about the impact of Kerwin, the starting salaries, like the pay rate, that's going to be increasing. So it's going to be increasing steadily until 2027. So right now we're starting at 49.7. And all of the teacher salaries have to get up to $60,000, and that's not just the bottom. That's not the floor that's moving.
Right.
That's the entire scale that's moving. So that's going to be a salary increase that has to be accounted for, and I doubt that the state is going to cover the entire increase, even though it's not forecasted that we're supposed to be adding that much to the cost of the blueprint.
You're killing me, right? Like what I said it before, and I wasn't going to say it, and I swear I wasn't going to bring it up. But what happened to the lockbox for education? What happened to the casino money? What's happening to the marijuana money? Where is this money that's supposed to be going to the public school systems and supposed to be boosting? I mean, I know they're look, the state's giving a good share. Let's be real, right? They're giving a lot of money to education. I get that, okay, but it was supposed to be a lot more generated by those things.
Yeah.
And and we're not seeing it. The numbers aren't
Well,
there.
well, you know what? I think that this will, considering that we should be informed prior to the public hearing. I think having a look at each of the departments. Maybe we don't cover it in the main show. Maybe we put together a document or something like that. I think that it might be worthwhile for us to just at least tell people about what was supposed to be there. Kind of do take a look back at what they said the casinos were going to pay for, and what they actually are paying for. Because just because they said that the casinos are going to pay for the schools doesn't mean that they're going to say they're going to add all of the casino revenue on top of the rest of the state budget. That
Right.
money from the casino may be the revenue that they use for the school expenses.
So then
Just
they're
that
not see, and that's the reverse of that is then they're not making the increases that the commissioners are making on the same level because it's coming from a different source anyway, right? If
but
the commissioners had an extra $100 million to spend here in St. Mary's County, I'm pretty confident that by like Brandon said, they're going to percentage that money out to each one of the departments. And
well, if you look at schools specifically, when I started paying attention to the budget, we were right or maybe above 50% on the on the county side, and now looking at it right now, we're a lot lower than 50%.
Hmm.
right.
And so, I mean, the percentage that the state is covering has increased. So, I mean, just kind of like looking at it from a percentage basis, it looks like they're putting in more, bro.
Okay, good. I mean, I don't know that, right? Like, so that's why, but that's a concern that we need to know. And you know what? I'm just the average Joe out here. You know what I want? I want an infographic telling me this is what we're spending, this is what we got, and this is what I don't. I had to make up letters after my name. Okay? I don't understand it all, but I mean, we just I don't know. I think and you know what? I don't think I'm alone. I think there's a lot of people in this county that have no clue. And don't get me wrong, many don't care really.
Mm.
I mean, I think ultimately they don't, but they don't care until it really affects them financially, right?
Right.
And I see too many in my business. I see a lot of senior citizens or elderly that are struggling, and then they got to make that property tax bill. And I mean, I know there's ways that they can, accommodate those sorts of things, but it hurts people, right? And if we're not supplementing that budget in every way possible before we start taxing our citizens, I mean, then we're not doing a service to them. We're really not. By the way, that sounded really good, didn't it? Like think about that. Right?
Are you planning on running for office?
No, but no, I mean, seriously, think about it. Like, before we need to exhaust every other option before we tax individual property owners and more and more and more. Not that we don't, but more. Before we tax them more, we need to exhaust every other income stream we possibly can. I think.
I think this is why we should take a look at each of the departments, because one of the things that I did a few years ago with Mike Hewitt, we had a conversation about actuals versus forecasted budgets. So we
Yeah.
went line item to line item and talked. It's because the conversation started with the the operation budget, but what I wanted to do was really look at it from the CIP budget, so the capital improvement the side of things, because there's no way to really do that. So you can see actuals versus allocated. So maybe we could take a look at the growth in places where the budget is a lot higher than traditional actual. So it's like we see if they didn't trend properly.
Hey, Brandon, did you
Yep.
do other counties do it the same way, where it's like a percentage of what they've done in the past? Is that how they look at? I don't honestly, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm not sure. I haven't looked at, Charles or Calvert County's budget to see if they assess that. I'm sure they do track what percentage of the budget these various things are. Um, but I'm not sure if they use that as kind of like a threshold or, a meter to judge off of when they're making decisions. And I think, going back to your point about exhausting other funding sources, um, that actually reminded me of when I was running for office last year, and I met with a number of different department heads and listened to them explain the amount of time that they spend having employees write, grant proposals is just off the charts.
right,
And like take the health department for example. The health department does so much for very little from the county, and a good portion of their budget is grants from the state and the federal. So
That's a quasi state. That's a quasi
yeah,
state.
it is. It is. You're right. It is. But I mean, even still, the man hours that go into
Yeah.
preparing that kind of stuff. And then when you look at the fact that, county government has, or had very recently, like 100 open positions, so you have somebody, take land use and growth management, for example. They don't have a director. They have an acting director. They have planning positions that are open. They're down some important people. And so when you are running really thin like that, it makes it that much harder to go after these other funding sources, because you just don't have the time if you're trying to provide
right,
services to citizens. And I know the commissioners tried to address that with giving, a cost of living increase and I don't know, a step increase, merit increase, something to the county employees, and tried to increase, benefits packages to hire on talented people. But I mean, when you're 100 positions down, and then you look at this budget and they created 32 or 36, I was just looking at new positions,
Mhm.
36 new positions. So now you're 136 positions down. So it's like you're just putting yourself further behind.
right. Yeah, I mean, there's some. I do like what you said about like going through going through this budget and see where they are. I mean, like I just glanced at emergency services, that $11 million. I think that was the COVID money, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I mean that emergency service is taking a 52% decrease in
Yeah.
budgeting item. Half of their budget, but I think that had to do with the COVID money. But
Yeah.
because it's $11 million, I don't think there was an extra $11 million in their budget for fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's so funny to watch these things, and really, if you glance at them, you can kind of really get a quick summary. So we should do that. But
Yeah.
I just think knowing what other counties do is important too, because like if Charles is 3% of their budget is the health department, whatever. I'm just by the way, I don't know what the number is. I'm not even saying it, but then I'm not saying we need to match. We don't need to stay up with them, right?
The percentages are similar.
Yeah. So I think, and that's what I'm saying. We need to just look at those numbers and see where they are. I mean, let's just say, here's the part that gets me though, real quick. I just glanced at the other thing. I mean, honestly, 12, 13, 14, 15, they got $15 million more in their budget this year, and from what I can tell, in income taxes and property taxes. That's a lot of money.
It is.
I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what it looks like to me. 5% in property taxes and 6.9 in income taxes. That's a lot. That's a lot of income.
What? Hold up. See, now you're gonna make me ask a ton of other questions. It's like, all right, are we talking about? Because I mean, they're forecasting. So
Yeah, they maybe the forecast, but
no, it's
22
definitely a forecast.
I mean, 22 and 23 is income tax was less. See, that's where, and those should be real numbers, right?
Well, it's probably haven't been audited yet.
Yeah, I mean, you got $5 million year over year, 22, 23 for property taxes, according to this. That's
the other big piece of this too, when you're comparing our county's budget to Charles or Calvert or really any other county in the state, is you have to consider that the largest sources of revenue are the property and income taxes, and
Yeah.
we do have one of the lowest tax rates in the state. You know, I just looked it up. Calvert County's average property tax is $2,700. Charles is almost $2,700. Ours is about $2,200.
Here, remember, there's also a transfer tax that other counties have that we don't.
We do have a transfer tax.
Well, there's a different tax. Hold on, I know it. I know what I'm right. Hold on, I know it. I have it. I can find it. But it's not. There's definitely a different change in the taxes from between counties. I'll pull it up.
Yeah.
And we actually don't have an industry that's covering like our schools and everything like they do over in Calvert.
Right.
And, so it'd be good for us to have a nuke plant or something like that over there.
Right.
All right. I had a question. Oh no, I know what I wanted to say. Jamie actually, I think she at one of her FTEs was actually focused on finding grants.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw
she
that.
had a, and so I think that would be something that we probably could benefit from, because I mean, if we had someone that was just that was their entire job, just focused on actually executing, actually writing grant proposals, or a department, that would definitely be worth it, because I mean, you land a few grants, you land 2 or 3 grants, you pay for yourself, right? So
it was we have a county. St. Mary's has a county transfer tax that you don't have in Calvert County.
Yeah.
Right. And we both have recordation transfers and recs, but that's the state transfer tax and the recordation tax.
Right.
St. Mary's, in addition to that, has their own county transfer tax.
Right.
It's because we're more reliant on our people, because we don't have any other real sources of revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we're more reliant on our properties than, because it always got me. Let me tell you real quick one more thing. Like, sometimes you have investors that will buy a property and flip it and sell it again. So sometimes you might have 2 or 3 transfers in a year.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just revenue. It's just, and I always think about that. And the county doesn't tend to bring that up when we start talking numbers, right? Like they don't want to point out that we have that over and over and over again many times. Also you have family transfers and things that are free, so it probably washes itself out.
And everybody down here is cousins, so
right. All right.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you simplifying all that stuff for us, Mr. Russell.
Yeah, simplifying, sure. In quotes, right?
Yeah, you're our hero for sure, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's so many moving pieces, and I mean, we didn't even get into talking about the excise tax. That's Chris's favorite subject.
I know. They brought that in the last week too. That was in the commissioners meeting last week, right?
Yeah, we might have to do an episode on that, because there's the week before the budget public hearing, which, by the way, before we sign off, the budget public hearing is April 25th at 6:30 p.m. at Chopticon High School. So if you want to talk about how the commissioners are spending your money, that is where to do it. But the week prior is another public hearing about implementing the excise tax, which I think we'll probably cover before we get to that point.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to cover that.
It's a pretty big deal. So we'll leave that tease out there, right? So everybody can come back and listen to us talk gobbledygook and numbers.
Okay, everybody who fell asleep, we're back on. We're getting ready to close out now. If you wake up, you can wake up after you heard all the numbers.
Hopefully you weren't driving. You were somewhere safe when you fell asleep. But yeah, so until we get back to the conversation next time, stay informed.
And stay engaged.
Stay empowered.
See ya.
See you soon.